Hey, what's going on? I hope you're all good being stuck inside in isolation during this whole COVID-19 apocalypse crisis, whatever we're in at the moment. It's pretty weird being stuck inside, being away from work, not really getting to adventure out or go and do anything within a certain radius of your house. So I decided that why not try and film a photography idea, creative photography ideas that you guys can do indoors with stuff that you would actually generally find in your own home. So why not do something along these ideas that you can actually eat up some time, get creative, and get that brain going again. So seeing as I'm actually saving up for the Canon EOS R5, I believe at the moment, and that's been delayed because of this whole COVID-19 crisis, I'm actually going to be taking pictures today with my Canon EOS M50, and I'm also going to be using our Insta360 1X 360 camera. So that will help us capture some B-roll whilst I'm also using this camera to take pictures. Whilst I'm looking around just in this room alone, I'm seeing 3 different ideas that I can come up with. I see a Christmas tree, a mini Christmas tree that has been here for many months, even though it is now April. I think it's well due to actually get rid of it, put it away in storage for another few months, but it has fairy lights around it, so that could be something that is useful. So that's one idea that I could use. The other one is I see a bunch of CDs, DVDs that I can actually use that belong to my housemate John. So John, apologies, but I'm going to borrow one of your DVDs right now. I'm not going to break it. I'm just going to use it for some ideas. And also I see a 50-inch television as well, which I might be able to get some graphics up and use some reflections on that, some reflection photography. So there are 3 ideas that I can already see in this room alone, and that's something that I can already work with basically. So the idea is that I'm going to dismantle this mini Christmas tree, take off all the lights and wrap it around this camera and try and get some cool looking bokeh really. So let's just give it a try. So I'm thinking of just doing this photography scene setup down in this corner here because it's going to have a pretty plain background and it's just going to be the best spot in this room, to be honest. I'm just going to have to move all of this crap out of the way. So the idea is that I wrap these fairy lights around the camera and hope to get, in a very tricky way, some sort of bokeh like this, but also if they're long enough to actually possibly wrap them around me somehow without looking like a complete and utter fool. That was a complete mess. So this is actually very awkward. It's a lot more awkward than I actually thought it would be. You know what might actually help? Sellotape. This should help. I believe this may be one of the harder ones that I've tried. Just more tricky than anything, to be honest. Just to get it exactly how I want it. Something like that. Okay, let's see how those turned out. Actually, we have one that's really good. I'm very proud of that. So for this next one, I might actually do it in portrait because I did the last one in landscape. And I think portrait might just suit this one a little bit better overall. It's just deciding what movie to actually use. What DVD do I actually use for it? Tough decisions. So I guess we're gonna go with I'm Not There, starring Christian Bale, Kate Blanchett. Never seen it before. Who cares? So this next idea is from a friend of mine. Her name is Emily and her Instagram name is Escape with Emily. If you want to go and check her out, she actually did a really good job of this overall on her Instagram. So this will work with CDs or DVDs, whichever you pretty much choose. Essentially, when you shine a light, whether it be a flashlight or the sun, onto CDs or DVDs, it will actually reflect out the color of a rainbow, the color spectrum overall, certain colors more than others. And she actually did a really good job of this to promote gay pride overall last year, and it's going to be hard to beat her Instagram post. I'm going to say that right now, but we're going to give it a go. Okay, so this is quite difficult because not only am I here by myself, I have to put this on a timer. I also have to ensure that when I set the camera on timer, I can pick up the CD and my phone at the same time with my light and get it at the correct angle. So this one is going to be a little bit tricky and a little bit flimsy. Is that a word? I'm going to be flumming around the place. I don't even know if flimsy is a word. Flumming, yeah. So this next idea actually comes from a photographer called Sorella Moore. If you've never heard of her, you should check her out on Instagram. Basically, she holds this idea called an advanced selfie, where she takes all of her pictures purely by herself, and they're pretty much fantastic. So luckily I had this white bed sheet lying around, and Sorella actually came up with this idea a few years ago, where she had just draped this sheet around her, put the camera underneath the bed sheet with her as well, and she came out with some pretty fantastic photography overall. It's a pretty creative skill in itself. So luckily I had this white bed sheet lying around that I haven't used yet, and I'm gonna set it up, sit on this table, drape it around me, put the camera underneath, have two hard lights on either side, and let's just see how it actually turns out. Where am I? There we are. Hello. This is actually quite interesting. Yeah, this looks pretty cool. If anybody else was here, they'd think I'm a complete weirdo. Although some of you already do think I'm a complete weirdo, but that's okay with me. Luckily, I'm alone. I wonder if I even tried it from a higher angle. Can you even see me? And let's even just angle this down the way towards myself. Let's see what that's like. That is not too bad overall. We may want it a little bit higher like that. And new angles can definitely change anything up, so definitely work with new angles overall. Oh, and try not to break all of your equipment, because this is an awkward type of setup. This light could be brought forward. I can't even see what I'm moving. Much better. The lighting is a lot better for that one. Yeah, let's test out some photos for this. These are actually turning out quite good, I have to admit. Some hand poses as well. I'm not the best poser in the world, but I suppose we all have to start at some place. Do I look cute? I think we've definitely nailed that shot. Oh, yes! Time to clean up this mess and move on to the next shot. So with this TV, essentially, because it's so big, what I want to do is try and find a really good high quality picture on Google and try and get some reflective photography in my sunglasses, which I'm going to wear, and just see how it turns out. Okay, so I think I'm gonna try this image first because I actually like this one the most out of all of them. You can see there's actually a nice reflection in the sunglasses there. Depending on what image you actually choose, whatever you get, it can actually look quite cool, and we can do a lot of work on this in Photoshop afterwards as well. So for one of the last shots, I was just thinking, seeing as we're coming in towards summertime, there's a few dandelions growing in my garden. You might have some at home as well. I might actually just pick a few dandelions and do a little bit of an experiment with blowing the dandelions towards the camera whilst it's taking continuous photos. And for the record, yes, I know I need to cut my grass. So I've gathered 6 dandelions from the garden. They've lost a few of their leaves, floaty things, whatever they are, on the journey from the garden to here. So I better be very careful with them. I'm going to have 2 shots of this. I'm going to use 3 dandelions per shot, and I need to make sure to get the frame rate pretty much correct so that they actually stay in focus and they're actually sharp if it actually turns out correct. This is one of the shoots that I was a little bit worried about because I'm actually not too sure how it's going to pan out. I'm gonna sort of break the rules, and I'm also sort of gonna break your hearts, and I'm gonna introduce you to Atlas, who's my new puppy, and he's going to be our little model for this photo shoot. I think he's too busy digging right now. Atlas! Atlas! Dog! Dog! This trick might actually help us with getting his attention. What's this? Huh? What is it? What is it? Ooh, you have it. Ooh, what about this? What about it? What if I throw it for you? What if I throw it for you? Huh? Oh! He has 0 interest in that ball right now. Well, what? Look at it. I throw it. Pew! Yeah! Do you want to play with it? Look at it. Okay, so for the second try, Mr. Octopus is coming out. Look at Mr. Octopus. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Go on. Get him. No, not the drain. Mr. Octopus. So I'm not sure if this is going to work right now because he always just wants to be right next to me. All of the time. Anytime I try and walk over to the other side of the garden, follows me straight away. Anytime I throw any of his toys, will not go for it. He is just lacking in energy right now. So it's the next day and all of the pictures are edited up. Let's have a look and see what the results are actually like. So for the first shoot was the fairy light bokeh type of shot where I had the aperture fairly low, focused in on my face, so all the fairy lights that were close up to the actual lens of the camera were blurred out. Now out of these 3 shots that I've chosen, this one is my favorite purely because I'm not the best poser overall. I haven't really practiced at it too much, but this one is a little bit more serious because I'm looking straight into the camera, but I do have a little bit of that cheeky grin as well. And overall, I just sort of like my posing in this one out of the 3 that I've actually chosen. Now, what I've done in the editing stage was I've obviously enhanced some of the colors, some of the luminance and the saturation of the fairy light color itself. I've also applied 2 radial filters over my face. The first one was to actually just bring up some of the highlights, shadows, the blacks overall on my face. and the other one was inverted just to bring down the highlights, the shadows, the blacks, etc. So pretty much that means that all of the focus is on me, and the center of the image, which is pretty much where my face is a little bit brighter than the overall outside of the image. I've also applied in a graduated filter from the very left hand side and up from the bottom too, and I've just applied a yellow sort of tint onto that and brought up the highlights on it as well. Something just to actually match the color somewhat of the bokeh of the fairy lights as well, so it adds a little bit more of the yellow tint along the left hand side and the bottom of the shot itself. But overall, I actually really like this picture and how it turned out. I like the bokeh overall of the fairy lights. I like my posing. I actually like this overall. Now onto the second shoot, which was the CD rays. Essentially, I've only chosen one picture out of all the pictures I took for this, purely because I only really liked one. Now what you can notice is I've actually cropped down the image so it's a little bit more of a landscape picture instead of a portrait, which is what I was looking for in the first place. I've used the exposure brush in Lightroom to actually get rid of the light in the background of the image, so it's pure black all around me, and I've enhanced obviously some of the saturation a little bit, not overly done it on the colors that are shining onto my face. Plus I've taken away some of that harsh light that's coming off the phone that I used to shine onto the CD. I've taken away some of that light on my actual neck and on my body as well, just so the actual highlights, the main part, is on my face. And I've also again used the same radial filter and the inverted one on my face as I did for the bokeh shot as well. I tend to actually use that radial filter effect a lot, purely because it just makes the focus and the main subject stand out a little bit more. This, to be honest, is my favorite out of all of the shoots that we've done for this video. I think this turned out really well. I'm very happy with it. For the hard work that it actually took, all the time it took, it actually turned out really good, and I'm pretty happy with that. So onto the actual white bed sheet, covering yourself in a bed sheet. I don't even know what to call it, photography. Pretty much I've chosen 4 main images for this overall shoot. I really like 2 of them out of all of the 4, but I like all of the 4 altogether. I like the 2 pictures with the actual hand gestures because it actually adds just more depth in the overall pictures themselves. And again, what I've done is I've added the radial filters again, both on my eyes, just to bring up some of the highlights and the shadows on my eyes to make them stand out a little bit more. I also used the 2 inverted radial filters around my face, and I've also overall in the image brought up the whites, so the actual white sheet just looks like a massive canvas of white around me, and you can't really see too many shadows in the overall white sheet itself. I just wanted it to stand out, but overall my favorite 2 are the 2 pictures with the hand gestures, just because it actually adds more depth in the pictures themselves. I'm really happy with these pictures. So onto the dandelion shots. I will definitely call this a fail of a shoot because, well, I pretty much messed up in this overall, purely because I wanted the dandelions to stand out, but I also wanted them to be fairly sharp as well. Now my main problem that I stupidly didn't realize in the middle of the shoot is more of an amateur mistake. I had the aperture very low, so there was a very shallow depth of field which was focused on my face, meaning that when I blew the dandelions they were closer to the camera and they all became blurry. That was an amateur mistake. I should have actually had everything in focus, and I should have had a higher aperture on the camera overall. But again, I've used the same radial filters overall on my eyes, on my face to make it stand out, and I've just enhanced more of a warmer tone to the pictures themselves. But overall, I'm not too happy with this shoot. It's okay. It turned out mediocre. That's about it really. So the TV reflection shots, they actually turned out really cool. I'm really happy with actually the 3 main shots that I've chosen from this. 2 of the pictures that I chose out of the 3 to put up on the TV actually turned out extremely well and gave great reflection into the sunglasses themselves. You can see obviously I've enhanced some of the saturation of the colors on the screen so they actually stand out a little bit more. I haven't pushed it too much, but I've also brought down the shadows on the left hand side of the overall picture, just so it highlights my overall face and the TV as well, and the reflection in the sunglasses. And again, using that radial filter, the inverted and the non-inverted one, to make the part or the subject of the image, which is myself, to stand out more. Overall, I'm extremely happy with this because the reflections turned out really well. But I pretty much like this one more out of all of them. This one is my favorite, just because of the reflection that's coming into the sunglasses and the image itself. It actually just makes the mind think, and it gives you a little bit more of a subject to look at, which is the sunglasses and the reflection in those as well. So I'm really happy with this. And because the dandelion shoot didn't actually work out as planned and it was a little bit of a failure, I actually brought along my dog Atlas, my puppy, and we actually tried to take some pictures outside, even though it was hard to get him energized just for this shoot. Overall, my favorite picture is the one of him with the milk carton, purely because he has a little bit of a smile on his face, he's in motion, he's running, and he just looks cute overall. But all of the images are pretty fantastic from that one shoot itself, just because he's such a little cutie. So what I've done with this image itself, the one of him carrying the milk carton, was I again used the radial filters, the inverted and the non-inverted, and I also brought in a graduated filter up from the bottom of the overall shot itself, and I brought down the highlights, the blacks, the shadows, so it actually just brings your focus and your eyes to the actual main subject itself, and it just makes the overall bottom of the picture darker, so the main focus is the center of the image. So those are the images. Let me know what you think is your favorite down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to check out any of those images even more, check me out on Instagram, because that's where they're going to be uploaded. And we're going to be stuck inside in isolation from COVID-19 for a few more weeks, hopefully not too much longer. So if you're bored, if you have nothing to do, give these ideas a try, because you could surprise yourself with what you could come up with. And let me know, tag me in them on Instagram if you happen to upload them to Instagram as well. I'll catch you in the next one for more isolation photography ideas. Peace.